James Haney.
Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State University, and we're fortunate to have with us the chairperson of the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State University, Professor AAl-Hadid. And Dr. Al-Hadid, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Haney.
You know, Dr. Al-Hadid, I think we've had you on our show on a couple of occasions prior to this, but still I think that our audience would like to know something about you and how you became the chairperson of the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State University. So why don't you give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were significant in terms of your own career and eventually leading you to the chairperson of the Africana Studies Department at Tennessee State University. Then we'll get into that department and talk about some of the other things connected with African American History Month, because we are on the very edge of that celebration in February. Let's talk about you and your background.
Well, I'll start with the fact that I was born in Montgomery, Alabama, and went to high school there, George Washington Carver High School. And I referenced my place of birth because, of course, you know that Dr. Martin Luther King was there, and I was a young person at the time that his movement was launched in Montgomery in 1955, and I grew up more or less in Dr. King's movement. And I think more than anything else, that's what started me to thinking in terms of critical analysis of society and identifying with the struggle of our people. Went to Alabama State University and received my bachelor's there in sociology and psychology, and I left and went to California. And it was in California I just ran into, at that time, the Black Studies movement. So I think everything that happened in my life prepared me for this moment. As a graduate student, I was one of the founders of the Black Studies Department and Culture Center out there at University of California in Santa Barbara. And then, of course, I came to Nashville in '73, and I've been at Tennessee State since that time. I've been at Tennessee State for about 21 years. And I came initially in the sociology department and created some courses like Black Nationalism, African Societies, and Modernization. I think what I'm most known for is my creation in 1985 of the Great Debate, in which we look at the ideologies of Dr. King and Malcolm X and then argue contemporary issues. One issue that we've argued recently is the role of Africana studies at historically Black colleges. So in 1984, that was the time in which the campaign started at Tennessee State to try to create Africana Studies program or department. Now, we were quite fortunate because there were people that came before our times. I was talking to Ms. Lois McDougall, and she told me that as early as 1913, that Tennessee State University had a course called American Industrial History with particular reference to the Negro. So, in other words, the history department carried the baton of this study for a long time. And when we started campaigning at Tennessee State for the department, we already had 33 courses in the catalog. We had 21 undergraduate courses and 11 graduate courses. So all we were saying to those who were to grant us the department is that we're already doing Africana studies. We just don't have a department. So we opted for a department as opposed to a program because we wanted something that was freestanding. And at this very moment, we are the only freestanding Africana Studies department in the Southeast. And among the 117 historically Black colleges, we are the only Africana Studies department, especially at the undergraduate level. We feel very good about that, and we are growing. We started receiving our majors in August, and at this time we have 25 majors, and hopefully by the end of the school year we'll have at least 50. Our goal is to have a stable population of 300 majors in Africana Studies. And before I move away from the department, I'd like to just say this one point by way of announcement. April 7th and 8th, we plan to have the grand opening of the Africana Studies Department. And at that time, we'll have the who's who in Africana Studies. We'll have Dr. Malefia Santi, Dr. Maulana Karinga, Dr. Dolores Aldrich, Dr. Jacob Carruthers, and those who are in the field know the international stature of these people. It'll be a two-day conference, Friday, April the 7th, and Saturday, April the 8th. And as things unfold, we'll be making more announcements to the general public about the event.
What has been the general reaction, Dr. Al-Hadid, among the student body at Tennessee State University in reference to the creation of this Africana Studies Department?
Well, I think the reaction has been very enthusiastic. In fact, we know that it was the students that were the spark to create it. They started this movement in 1984, and they carried it on diligently until 1989. And it was at that time that the faculty came in and started writing the proposals. So they were there from the beginning, and they're there now, especially the Student Government Association and the other student leaders. So that enthusiasm is there. Our classes are filling out real good, and day by day we have students who are changing their majors to Africana Studies, or if they are undeclared, they're declaring Africana Studies as a major, and also the new freshmen we have coming in. And one thing I want to say for our viewing audience about this, and I don't know what context we want to put it in, but in August, I was sitting in my office, and our first major showed up. And our first major...
August of last year.
Of this past year, August of '94. Our first major showed up. The first person to major officially in Africana Studies was a white student. So it's saying, that said a lot to me, that not only are we talking about studying our people, we're looking at it from a human dimension, and we open it up on a broad level. So we want to be interdisciplinary and multicultural.
Very good. And let's look at some of the things that are generally taught in the Africana Studies Department, and allow you to simply give us a point of view in reference to some of the things. Let's, since this is the beginning of African American History Month, for those who might not know that much about the African American experience in the United States, let's have you to go back a little farther than the establishment of the United States to talk about the African in the Americas, or the African in the New World. Let's look at it from that perspective.